Hello, I'm Dr. Danita, your host for Baggage Claim, Unpack Your Bags with Dr. Danita. We're back for season 2. It's season 2 already. And you know that I often say that on this carousel of life, picking up baggage is sometimes really unavoidable. But unpacking those bags becomes a choice. So I'm coming on live every single week, and I'm going to offer those educational tips and emotional health tips, but just remember that they are in no way a replacement for professional counseling. If you're finding that those bags that you're carrying are way too heavy for you to carry, definitely reach out for help. You can find me on my Facebook page at Dr. Danita Thompson. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to catch those replays. All right, so I'm ready to join you live. Remember to hit like and share. You want everyone to know that I'm going on. Like and share, and let's get started. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Baggage Claim, Unpack Your Bags with Dr. Danita. We are in season 2, and this is episode 4. And I'm excited about tonight, but before we get into our topic, I just want to go through what we do. So don't forget to hit like, and then go ahead and share. Hit like and share. If you're a fan, clap it up in the comments. If this is your first time viewing Baggage Claim, let us know where you're viewing from. Put that in the comments as well. And if you're catching a replay, just type in replay. So tonight, I'm excited about tonight's topic. Um, we've been talking about navigating rocky relationships, and tonight the topic is Until Death Do Us Part. And so, in my opinion, the relationship of marriage is probably one of the rockiest relationships and the most difficult to be able to navigate. And so we're going to delve into the topic of To Death Do Us Part tonight. Remember that this is interactive. And so if you have questions, go ahead and ask your questions, type them in, and we'll get to them. We'll try to monitor the feed. I have my phone here. And so we'll try to monitor and be able to answer your questions or highlight some of the comments that are shared on tonight. And so I have an amazing power couple that I'm bringing on tonight that have agreed to be on Baggage Claim tonight. And so we're going to introduce Christian and Lanisha Johnson. Hey, Christian and Lanisha, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank
Hello.
you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Woo!
Yeah, so Christian and Lanisha are like a power couple. We see them on social media, and you look at them, and they're the young black couple that you look at, and you're like, wow. They're a perfect couple. I just want to be like them. They just have that look, they just go together and everything about them just gels and meshes. But how many people know that there is no such thing as a perfect couple? No such thing as a perfect couple. And so I'm pretty sure that Lanisha and Christian have a story to tell. And that speaks of their imperfection, but two imperfect people coming together and navigating this thing that we call marriage, making decisions and choices and navigating their behaviors in ways that would help them to be able to move forward in marriage. And so let's just start out with some introductions, or you just kind of share a little bit about yourselves and how you met, and just give us some context for tonight.
Very beautiful.
Well, we've been married 13, a little over 13 years. Well, more like closer to 14. We met in high school, actually. We met when we were 14 No, 15 years old. I think we both were 15 years old.
Just get to the part how I wooed you. Tell them how I wooed you. You want to tell them that part? No. Okay, go ahead.
So we had like a little very short relationship when we were in high school. And then we kind of kept in touch after that. For a while, we didn't talk at all. But then after that, we kind of kept in touch through college and all of that. And when I was going into my senior year of college, that's when we actually started a serious relationship. We started dating in 2015. I'm sorry, 2005. And that was the start of where we are today. We got married in 2007. We have 3 boys, twins who are 12, and we have a 7-year-old. And we love just doing life together. We love ministry. We love business, entrepreneurship. We love people. We love couples, mentoring couples, young couples in particular, and just helping them navigate through their relationships and going forward. We both grew up strong in our faith, and we just connected in that way as well. So it's been an amazing journey. As you said, not perfect by any means, but we have learned a lot over the years together. We grew up together pretty much because we got married when we were in our very early 20s. And so we've learned just life with one another side by side. So we've had some very high highs and some low lows, but wouldn't trade it for anything. So
all right.
That's my girl right there. Just to let y'all know that. That's good.
Tell us a little bit about your. You mentioned that you are entrepreneurs and you have a business. So tell us a little bit about your business.
you want to talk first, or you want me?
Well, you've done such a beautiful job.
Well, our main focus is thriving in love. That's all surrounded around marriage and relationships. And our focus there is working with couples in their communication. And so we've gone from working with pre-marriage couples who are preparing for marriage to all the way to couples who have been married longer than we have and are just navigating through difficult situations like infidelity or broken trust, or just different things that come against our relationship. So we just help them with the communication part of healing through that process. So we work with couples one-on-one. We also love to host workshops and conferences, which we haven't gotten to do much of that lately.
Yeah.
But we look forward to doing that again in this coming year. So we're excited about that. We also have a couple other small businesses that we have started, one with custom apparel and one with handmade soap. I mean,
candles.
Love
Lit Lux. You got to put it out there like that. Love Lit Lux. That's the candle company.
All right. So, as a licensed marriage and family therapist, one of the things that I love to do is to prepare people for marriage. And you talked about how that's one of the things that you do with your business. You have opportunities to help people prepare for marriage. One of the things that I have found is that people will invest so much time and so much money and so much effort in the wedding day and leave so little time and invest so little effort in the preparation for the marriage itself. So let's talk a little bit about how well you feel you were prepared. You know, what kind of preparation did you go through to start your marriage journey?
I'm jumping on that. Okay, all right. I feel as though we were prepared, but I would say we were prepared for far as like the mindset of marriage, okay, but not necessarily the application of marriage. So we did premarital counseling, and we believe in that, obviously, because we do it, but also It was super foundational again in the head knowledge. I've read so many books as it relates to marriage. We had mentorship, but all that had to do with the what of marriage. It wasn't necessarily how, right? I had to how to apply the head knowledge, how to apply the life application, problem solving, disagreements, communication, the sickness and in health part, like all those things. I don't think we're really prepared that way.
Yeah.
But I felt like from our perspective, like it was good, but I just wish we had more life application. And that's why we coach the way that we do. It's not just, we love education, don't get me wrong, the information, but it's that area of taking the information into an area of transformation and living these principles out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I got zero preparation for marriage, and we're going to share our story next week. But that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it, because I know how difficult marriage can be. I mean, you got the head knowledge and you got the book information, but we didn't even get that. And so we didn't even get that. And so trying to navigate at such a young age was absolutely, it was a story to tell. And so we're going to share that, my husband and I, next week. But even with the preparation, and you were saying that, you didn't get the how to, and a lot of times I think it's important for for couples to have mentors. So after you get the book information, then you have mentors that come alongside you and try to help you navigate through the how to's. But no matter what, you have to do it on your own, and you have to, figure it out, and what works for you. Because even with mentors, everything that works for them may not necessarily work for you.
Right.
One of the things that I notice, especially when I'm working with married couples and going through the counseling process, we always get to this place where we recognize that we stood at the altar, and we did the for better, for worse, and for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And we meant that thing. But none of us ever really, 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 really think that poor is going to come, that sickness is possible,
Yeah.
or that, that we'll get to that place where, where, what was it? For richer, for poor, for in sickness and in health, and for the worst, that one. No one ever really feels like the worst could have actually happened. But reality is, those are very possible, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the challenges that you experience? Some of the pains that, and the poorer, the worse, the sickness, any of that you may have experienced over your journey?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do, and we say that all the time when we talk with couples, especially when they're preparing for marriage, is really making it a point that they understand that these things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
The poorer, the worst things, the health could fail. Any of these things can happen, and are you prepared for that? And as much as we try to convince ourselves that we're prepared, you just don't really know what it will look like until it comes. And in 2010, we got married in 2007. In 2010, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus. And during that time, even before that, probably a year or so before that, I started getting the scars on my face. And so I was diagnosed maybe 2 years before that with just the discoid. So that was just like the facial, like getting the scarring mainly on my face. And so I went through that whole period. But in 2010, it got really bad to the point of I couldn't really do much. I was always tired. I had no energy at all. The scarring got worse. My hair started falling out. Like all of these things started happening. This was not long after our twins were born. And so all these thoughts, of course, are going through my head. Like, he didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this. You
Mm.
know, is he going to find me attractive ever again? I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I didn't want people to see me. And it was to the point, makeup wouldn't even cover it. Like all of these things were going on. And not to mention our intimacy was affected, right? We couldn't be intimate because I had no energy at all to do. I couldn't, help around the house or anything. And so this hit us out of nowhere. Like we, of course, were not expecting. We're young. We didn't expect either one of us to deal with any serious ailments or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. But we made those vows in sickness and in health. And through that, we had to really learn what it meant to communicate with one another, to be vulnerable. I had to share with him that I was concerned, that he wouldn't find me attractive. And,
Mm.
I was sorry that I didn't have, the drive sexually. All of these things that we had to go through, I had to explain to him that I still found him attractive because there was no physical intimacy for a while. So I didn't want him feeling rejected or, things like that. Like I was no longer attracted to him.
Yeah.
So it was a very difficult season to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, having the mentors, but having a support team and people around us as well who would pray with us, who would cover us, who would, help us out, give us support, help. He had his corner of support with men who were encouraging him, and I had my support as well. But that was a really difficult season for us. Thank God I've gotten the diagnosis that they have placed upon me. I have gotten that under control. So I think I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But all in all, that was like the first major hit of, it wasn't the only one, but the first major hit that we went through as a couple.
And I think from my perspective, even through that whole situation, I'm gonna hit the intimacy. I'm gonna be real and talk about the intimacy. Okay. I love when I get that feeling. I want that sexual healing. No. But the truth of the matter is, so I have a past pornography addiction. And so when that hit, I had everything in my mind. I never looked at Lanisha like she wasn't beautiful or anything, and I embraced that whole situation and walked her right there, hand in hand, so forth and so on. But my own mental situations that I was dealing with as well, and the constant thoughts or the voices of, well, you can go back to this, or you can go ahead and do this, or you can do that, so forth and so on, to kind of cope and different things like that. And it was hard. She said she was trying not to, but I did feel rejected at some point in time, especially when she started seeming like she felt better. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we got through this. Action. Not yet. What's going on? So, I mean, communication, right? Like that is, I can't say that any louder. Like the areas, I'm so grateful that during that situation that we were able to both, what we like to say is be naked and unashamed as it relates to the things that we were dealing with. And we walked through that journey even together. So, but you had your side pertaining to that, but I also had my battles and my low times as well. I also have suffered with some anxiety and some worry, some fear, and some insecurities that I've dealt with along the way as well. So just that combination, as far as her physically going through, but me emotionally and mentally going through, we were both going through things together. But again, the support team was super helpful to help us get out of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you so much for being transparent. That's one of the questions that I ask when going through the preparing for marriage portion of going through preparing for marriage. One of the questions that I ask is what will happen, or what would happen, or what would you think if the attractiveness leaves, or if the woman or man that you are looking at today, what drew you, the way in which they present to you, suppose all of that leaves, then what?
Mm, Come on, Doc.
Because it's a very real possibility. What is your relationship really built upon?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and we know, of course, that men are visual. We understand that. Women, I mean, obviously, we look for a good looking man too, but men are a lot more visual than women. And it is real that, especially after having children, things go south and west and east, and they just don't they don't stay north very long, but they'll go west and east and south, but somehow the north, yeah, leaves us. And so those are very real. But when you're looking at that, oh, when you're looking at them at that, young age and tender age, you just think nothing could ever go wrong. And
Mm.
so this isn't one of the questions, but when you are helping to prepare people for marriage, I actually had a session today. And I said, I don't really want to highlight all of the negative things and the things that can go wrong, because I don't want people to think that marriage is just one humdrum, thing of life. But the reality is it really is work, not work like I'm toiling in this thing, but it's a consistent mindset of I need to be mindful, I need to be intentional, I need to be purposeful. And so when you're working with people, how do you navigate not necessarily weighing heavily on all of the things that could potentially go wrong, but still helping them understand reality that the honeymoon will be over very shortly.
I think one of the reasons I love that we coach with couples together is because they get to see us in real time. They get to see our interaction, how we laugh together, how we play with one another. We make jokes, we have fun, and we make it very purposeful to show the fun side of marriage, the exciting side of marriage, that we get to experience new things together, that we have a partnership that is meant to last longer than any other partnership that we'll ever have in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we also include in our coaching experiences that they can do. Just a couple last week, we got a video message from one of our clients of them out on the water on a boat doing paddle boating together. And so we encourage them to experience new things together and to incorporate fun purposely.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because it's so easy for our marriages to become business, all
Yeah.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a business side to it. Of course, we have things we have to take care of, but we want to make sure that the friendship is there. And that's why we always encourage them to work on their friendship,
Yeah.
while they're in that preparation phase, and to keep that going even after they say I do and long after the honeymoon is over.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, we release that energy. Like,
Mm.
so you already could tell I'm high energy. So like we release that energy, So it's, some things that we can teach, but some things I believe are caught. And I think that even if they're coming with a difficult situation and they do see, oh, well, Christian Lanisha, they went through this, a situation where they're still looking, they're still embracing, they see that we're not perfect, but it's genuine pertaining to our love. And you, out of your words, Dr. Danita, you said that it's something that is to look at or admire, or different things like that. So we kind of pride ourselves on being authentic and seeing those things. And if it's a rough season in time, we talk about it as well. We are transparent, not just here, but we're also transparent in our cases and letting them know that as well. But we also walk through with our clients. So that's a
Mm.
little different. It's not like you just see me and then you don't. 2 weeks from now, you see me. Like, we actually do our coaching. We walk with them through their journeys. So we want to know celebrate the times when they're celebrating. We also want to know the times when it's rough for them as well. But either way, we're there through that journey and through that process.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, That I think that the whole coaching concept is absolutely essential. And as I stated earlier, when you were saying that you just didn't know, you didn't have the you had the tools, but you didn't know how to use the tools, and so that whole coaching concept is essential for helping couples to be able to navigate. And even though my role is more clinical, um, there are times that I do feel that I take on a coaching role as well, being able to give the high fives and after they have completed a homework assignment over the week and did it well and were able to be successful with it. And so I agree. It is exciting to be able to walk someone through the journey of getting to that healthy place in their marriage. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. One or the other, you talk about a lot about communication, and in communication, decision making is another significant part of being in marriage. And there's always decisions that have to be made. And the way in which you communicate and resolve conflict and entreat one another in your communication is absolutely important for how the outcome of decisions and who's going to make the decisions and how we're going to make the decisions and I'm going to give my part and you're going to give your input and so let's talk a little bit about decision making and how you navigate that, because I find that couples get stuck often because we live in a very individualistic world, and so
Mhm.
it's people just want it their way.
Yeah.
And if it's not my way, then it's no way. And so, how do the two of you navigate making decisions, especially the big ones?
We try to use what we call a team approach.
Hmm.
So with whatever it is, like so I'm a visionary. I do majority of the talking, believe it or not, a whole lot of talking. Lanisha is more logical. I'm more emotional. I wake up, I'm in my emotions 90% of the day. Lanisha's in her logical pillar and operating. So needless to say, when it comes to decision making, we can totally be on totally different places. She's like, does it make sense? I'm like, but I feel like this is what we need to do. And so how do we do this? So what I've learned is, believe it or not, like I learned to value my wife's genius. Like that's something that I really learned to value. So even if I have my concept and my thoughts or whatever the situation may be, whether it's kid related, business related, ministry related for us, or whatever the case may be, I'll share my concerns and my thoughts. And then I value her genius. So I need, I desire her ideas as well. And so we come together after those situations and then, come up with a solution that honors our values, honors, what we believe in and causes us to make a united decision from my perspective. I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, we bring both of our thoughts and ideas to the table, and that wasn't always how we operated. We butted heads. I can be very stubborn. So if his way wasn't my way, like you said, Dr. Danita, I'm like, this is wrong. Like, this is not how we should be doing this. This makes way more sense. Like, and I would shut down his suggestions, his ideas. And I am married to an idea machine.
Let's go.
Like, he has a new idea every day, maybe multiple ideas in a day. And so I had to learn to listen and appreciate where he was coming from and also express my need to process. Mm-hmm. So he wanted the right now answer, and I needed to think about it. I needed to process what all of this meant. And so we had to learn to communicate with each other, even in that, like, babe, I need you to give me some time to think about this. I hear you, but I don't have an answer right now. And him on the other side being okay with giving me that processing time. But then I also have to learn that I can't hold on too long. I can't think about it forever and never come back to the table. And so we've learned how to balance that out by communicating about it. and just sharing where we are in that moment, and then also giving ourselves the time to come back and revisit if we have not been able to hash it out the first time around, because it doesn't always get resolved the first conversation.
Right.
And so the willingness to come back to the table with an open heart and an open mind to say, okay, what's the best, not just for me, but what's the best for us as a team, and what's the best for our family, or the goal or the vision that's at stake. What's the best choice going forward?
What I would say with that too, there's times we agree to disagree and still are able to move forward. And I think that's something that is even worth talking about, because there's times that I can say like, all right, that makes sense. I don't agree with it, but it doesn't hurt the team. It doesn't, destroy us, whatever the case may be. So you have clarity on that situation. Family, let's just rock with it. Mom said, let's deal with this, or this is what needs to be done. So it doesn't stop just because I can't see it at that moment. But then there's, like, on the opposite side too, there's sometimes when we feel like this is a really weighted decision and we do need to think about this, meditate about this a little bit more. And like you said, it might take 2-3 conversations and we're revisiting this, and we got a little bit closer pertaining to that as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever been at a stalemate? Like,
yes. Yes. We've come to situations where we just could not decide. We could not see eye to eye, and to make a decision one way or the other at the time we felt would be more detrimental, because we were just totally not seeing eye to eye at all. And so we we decide to not deal with that situation at the moment. So we put it on pause, and we say, okay, we're just not moving right now on that. And so, yeah, we have been in those situations. Some have breezed over, and just in a different time in our life or in our relationship, we realize, hey, maybe it was the best that we didn't move, or man, we really missed something there because we couldn't get on the same page and we couldn't agree to move forward. But I'm grateful that even in those situations, we at least learned something, whether we learned what not to do ever again, or we learned that, hey, sometimes we have to listen to that voice inside of us that's telling us to stop, or telling us to wait. And so we try to be open to learning those lessons.
that's good. That's important. Christian, you said something that I really like. I think you said you honor or you value Lanisha's genes. You value what she brings to the table. Both of you value the skills that you have, and so you capitalize on what each of you bring to the table. And that's what creates the union that, where you can move forward in a healthy way, when you're able to value what each person brings to the table, and use the gifts appropriately. um, Christian, I don't get too many couples that have the opposite. Most often the male is the one that's analytical and the problem solver. The male is not often the one who is in his emotions.
Yep.
And so when the two of you are, and maybe it doesn't, you've never even noticed it, but when the two of you interact with other couples, pretty much the female is the one that is usually in her emotions. And so have you ever noticed how the two of you move differently from other couples?
Absolutely. Every single time. Every single time. But I think I accept who I am. And it took me a while, because I felt like for years, I'm like, well, what's something wrong? Like, be a man, you gotta be like this. And I realized, like, no, it's okay. Like, this is who I'm created to be. Like, I'm the emotional side. That's how we complement one another. We don't compete, we complement one another. So when we're sitting across the table or virtually with a couple, we quickly are able to identify that as well. And it's unique because there's a lot of times I can personally relate to the wife. So when I do speak to, the husband in our case, and I'm able to relate, like, bruh, I know what she's feeling. Trust me. but then she can speak to a different. So it seems like a lot of times, even when we're going, it kind of breaks something, but also restores something at the same time, because I can relate to her, she can relate to him, but also we can relate to what it means to serve one another according to that perspective in our love language.
Yeah, it helps us because naturally, right, the male will identify with Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and the female will identify with me. And so that trust kind of is already there. But then when we can come and bring the other perspective in a way where they can understand it and relate to it, it just helps to kind of break some walls down.
Yeah.
When I can say to them, like, well, think about it from his perspective, and I know exactly what that perspective feels and looks like, it helps to get through to her in a different way. Whereas if I could not relate to or understand the analytical side or the strategic side of how he may be approaching a situation, so we've worked it to our benefit to help couples because we know that they don't often get that type of perspective from friends or family and things like that.
Yeah. And that's the part of navigating marriage. You said we've worked it to our benefit. The couple that is not able to navigate well will see those differences and get frustrated with it rather than using the differences and work it to your benefit. And so that's just one of the tips. Monday, I'm going to give more tips, but it's very important to use your differences to work it to the benefit for the benefit of the marriage. And so I'm pretty sure that in your decision making journey that some decisions that have been made, even if both of you came to the conclusion that this was the way in which we should go, in hindsight, which hindsight is 2020, when you look back, you say, that probably wasn't the best direction, probably wasn't the best decision. What are some of those things that you look back and you say, we probably could have used a do-over as it relates to that decision that we made?
Um, I think when we look back, so I said we love entrepreneurship, we love ministry and things, and we had it in our hearts to jump out into the deep. And we both had full-time jobs, and we came home from those jobs to run our businesses. And not that there's anything wrong with doing that, but we did not fully come with a plan on how we were going to sustain that lifestyle. And so we both agreed, this is what we're going to do. We jumped out there, and for a while we were swimming, but then it became really tough. The waters became really rough. That was another one of those for better or for worse moments, for richer or for poorer moments, right? Where we faced some very difficult times to the point of almost losing our home at one point too, things. So we had to stop and say, okay, this is our desire, and one day we will be here. But what do we need to change? What do we need to do right now to alter the direction that we're going in? And so we look back, and although we again learned a lot through that process, we realized, all right, that one we didn't think all the way through. We didn't that probably wasn't the best move in that moment. And so, we did, that was an oops. But again, I still believe that through that we grew close, very close, where financial situations often cause breakups in marriages. It helped us to learn to depend on one another even more. And we were very careful to not blame shift. And even if we might have been thinking it or feeling it, we weren't throwing it in each other's face, or we weren't doing this, but we were coming together to figure out what the solution was going to be versus allowing the problem to control us in our marriage.
I don't think I have any do-overs. Like she said, we've had some rough seasons. but we've still learned a lot through those situations and made us who we are today. So I don't say I want a do-over, but I will say that I wish that I had taken times, even through watch the rough times, to take the time to go through it, to feel it, to get the lessons that I needed to learn out of them. I'm the person I want to move forward. So I don't want pain. If I get a sniffle, I'm in the doctor's tomorrow. Like that's just how I am. I don't enjoy the pain. But I'm learning one of Lanisha's phrases that it bugs me, but I'll say it, to trust the process. Because I like to rush and get through it to get to the next thing. So I'm always on the next thing. What's the next thing? The biggest thing, whatever. But I've so much that we've learned. So I'm like, if I can go back and kind of see like through some of these lessons, and sometimes I'll meditate and reflect on some things, not to pull up the pain, but just to look at the lesson that was learned from there and how we came to where we are now.
Yeah. That's good. I have a similar personality. I'm always on to the next. And Lanisha, you were sharing that Christian has 1,000,001 ideas, and I probably have 1,000,002 ideas. And I'm always looking at, what's next. And sometimes, that can that could take a toll, on marriage. It takes, from what I'm hearing, and how I'm hearing the two of you communicate, it takes emotional health in order to be able to use the downsides of marriage and the poor decisions and things that you wish you may not have done at that time, and some of the things that you were sharing. It really does take emotional health to be able to bounce back. It takes emotional health to be able to say, what am I going to get out of this? What lesson am I going to learn in this? People who are not emotionally healthy, they just rehearse and nurse, and they ruminate, and they just go in cycles over and over again. Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that, and I'll never overcome that, rather than how can we overcome and what did we learn from that. And it sounds like the two of you have grown to that emotionally healthy place, that you're able to take the situations that you have experienced and utilize them for the future, utilize them for the next decision that you have to make. And so, unfortunately, every couple doesn't bring that to the table. When you bring your broken individual self to the table, then systemically, the whole system ends up being broken, because when one part of a system is broken, then it affects the whole. And so I'm always saying to clients in preparation for marriage, you got to work on you. Because
Yes.
if you don't work on you and get to an emotionally healthy place, and people have had so many different experiences growing up, their family of origin experiences affect how they function in adult life. And so if you can't function individually, then you're not ready to be able to bring your individual and broken soul to a union and think that you're going to be able to navigate it and navigate it well.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
absolutely. You often hear the phrase that when someone refers to their significant other, that you complete me. And I don't agree with that,
Neither.
because we should be coming to our relationship whole. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're two people coming together working on being one, right?
Yeah.
So we don't come as two halves, or a quarter even, and because what that does is it puts in unfair expectation on your
Mm-hmm.
spouse to fill all those gaps and those
Mm-hmm.
holes that you haven't worked on. And not to say that when you get into the marriage, things don't happen and you don't end up with holes or gaps
Right.
along the way. but it's important that we work as much as we can to prepare ourselves for that time. When I often, hear of a single woman, I'll just say, for example, who wants to get married. Well, my question is, what are you doing in preparation
Mm.
Mhm.
to be a wife? Like,
Mhm.
what is that going to look like for you? What are the things that you do now that would not necessarily work well when you are living full time with another person and you're merging your life with someone else? Like, what are you doing right now? Can you, like you said, navigate difficult seasons? Are you at the point where you're willing to reach out for help if you are having a difficult situation with your emotions, with your mental stability? Like, we
Right.
strongly encourage counseling and things like that. So are you willing to do that as a single person? Because if you're not willing to do it now, what happens when you and your spouse have difficult seasons? Are you going to be willing to take
Mhm.
those steps to get the help you need?
Yeah.
Doc-
Yeah.
Dr. Nate, you said you guys seem like you are emotionally healthy. So you made that comment. Um, but like Lanisha said, we coach, but we fully believe in having coaching. We have a therapist. We
Mhm.
have coaches
Good.
in our. So I always would say, even because we speak to a lot of leaders as well, young leaders, and I wholeheartedly believe that those of us who pour out a lot, we have to be poured into. So as much as I'm pouring out, I always would use the example. If I'm driving my vehicle more, I have to fill up more, and so we
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
to continue to do those things. And so I think that we can sit here and say that we believe that we're healthy, not just because of just what we read, but because the accountability that we have in our life.
That's
So
good.
Lanisha can pick up the phone to one of my accountability partners or a coach or therapist and say, he's acting a fool and I need you to go ahead. And she has full right to go ahead and do those things. And that's the thing, especially I'll say it this way, as African Americans that I encourage. Like, there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with getting coaching. There's nothing wrong with of seeing a therapist. There's nothing wrong with getting counseling. There's nothing wrong. Encourage it. Yes, we're a family of faith. We believe in prayer. We believe in all those things, and that's there. But it complements it as well. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
Absolutely.
Do what you need to do to be able to move forward,
Yeah.
because there's different gifts out there. And if we can connect in those areas, we can get to that next level. Sometimes we get stuck because we don't open our mouths. And
Right.
I
Right.
grew up in those areas. Well, what goes on in the house stays in the house. You don't say
Mhm.
anything. You don't do this, and that's why so many people are still bound and dealing with things, because they won't open up their mouths. You can't get fed if you don't open up your mouth, and so there's a lot of area. So we're just at that place. If I feel our energy shifting and something's wrong, I don't have a problem with reaching out and saying, "Hey, we need a checkup. Hey, we've been
Yeah.
pouring. And somebody in our life to say, oh, y'all need to shut down. Tell the client you won't go ahead and be there, and y'all need to go on vacation. Matter of fact, we're getting being told that now, so we'll be following that instruction soon. But it's such a grace, it's such an area of confidence and safety to have that accountability that you submit to or that you're accountable to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I call it, you're saying, you do checkups. I call it checking in on the state of the union. It's
Mm-hmm.
really important. You can be driving this marriage and driving the train and going forward, and one partner is head on the tracks while another one is driving, and the head is bouncing on the tracks and no one is the wiser, because one is driving the marriage and nobody is checking in to see, where are we really. And
Yeah.
so that's really, really important. And that whole 50-50 thing, bringing 50% of me and you bring 50% of you, a comment was made. It's not about 50-50, it's about 100-100. And that whole concept of 50-50 spills over into everything. You give 50% of your energy, you give 50% of the household responsibilities, and whoever knows what 50% is.
Mm.
50% is relative. You can't really measure 50% when you're doing life. And so inevitably somebody is going to be upset because they don't think that the other is giving their 50%, right?
Yeah.
So it
Absolutely.
absolutely has to be 100, 100. You give your all, I give my all, and all. all has to be recognized as whatever capacity your all is. Everybody doesn't
Mm.
come to the table with the same capacity, and so my all may not look like your all. But if we're in, if we have made this covenant and we are choosing to love each other and choosing to believe that the other is bringing their all, then we accept what they are bringing to the union. So
That's good.
each week we transition to a question that is actually posted on the page, and so I just want to switch gears a little bit because there's a question that was posted on the Facebook page, and the question is in reference to people choosing not to get married these days, young people. Statistics are saying that uh, couples seeking to get married is decreasing, actually plummeting. The
Mhm.
statistics for marriage are going down year after year. What do you think about this lack of desire for marriage? The two of you are talking about, how you've made this beautiful union and you're growing together, and now we have a generation who is saying, mm, "I don't want that."
I'm gonna get in trouble. So I think you need. I think you need to go ahead. If I talk, I'm gonna get in trouble. So maybe you need to talk about this one.
Well, I think there's so many factors that are now being built into why people don't want to get married, or looking. One is I feel like it comes from a place where, especially as women, more and more it's becoming popular to be the independent woman. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't need a partner. I don't need a husband to be who I'm going to be. I'm going to have my career. I'm going to have my business. I'm going to run the world type of
Mm-hmm.
mentality. I don't need this partner in life. And so I think I know social media plays a huge role in it because we see these lifestyles that people are living,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them are not real. Not saying they don't have those things, but we don't see what goes on behind the closed
Yeah.
doors. But
Mm-hmm.
what we do see is an extravagant lifestyle. And then we may see, even on the other side of seeing married couples in the public eye who have an amazing lifestyle. And then we hear about their divorce, but we don't hear
Mm-hmm.
about the experience along the way. We don't hear what they went through behind closed doors when nobody was watching.
Yeah.
And so it's having half of a story or
Mm-hmm.
just part of a story, and we put the pieces together and decide, I don't want anything to do with that because it doesn't work, or it's not good, or it's going to make me be less of who I am. If I decide to get married, I'm going to have to submit, or I'm going to have to do this or that. And so it's a huge misconception, I believe, and marriage hasn't been, in my opinion, represented in the public eye well, in a
Mm-hmm.
way that
Mm-hmm.
is healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get in trouble. So I'm gonna just go ahead and y'all got me. You can edit this stuff later, right, Dr. Denise? Oh, it's live. We can't do that. Okay. So I don't blame them. Okay, and this. I know I said it. I know I said it. I said it because when we speak at colleges and we get the opportunity to sit and talk with the generations, a lot of them have seen marriage done. I'll just say it. It's not in an unhealthy way. So they
Yeah.
have no desire when they've come from a broken home, when they never
Mm-hmm.
seen this thing lived out, when they've only seen it from this one perspective, where on Hollywood it looks like this, but in the home I've seen this. So if we would represent it, if we would live it out and be the living example, set apart example, then maybe we might see the younger generation desire because they've seen it. That's the whole reason why we do what we do and try to be as transparent to let you know, look, this can be rough, but this also can be amazing. And
Right.
so that's that area. And so that's why I say I don't blame them, is because it's what they've seen. I don't want any part of what? they're able to identify, I don't want any part of that brokenness. I don't want any part of where I seen that my mother was never released. She was suppressed. She could have been a business owner. She could have been doing this, but all she did was carry the plate in, and he sat in his seat in his recliner, and he came in, and that's all it was. No. We got to go to the area to realize that we can have power as individuals, but we can have power as a unit. And if we stick and show that and be real and be honest and be faithful to one another, then we'll begin to see these things change. And so that's why I say, well, what they see, if I had that eyesight, I wouldn't want it either.
Right.
I wouldn't want it either. But we've just been gifted and blessed to see patterns. You know, Lanisha collectively has seen years and years and years of marriage, you know, from her side. I've always desired it, and I've seen it done a certain way. And I realize in my inner man that what I'm seeing is not what it can be or what it's supposed to be. And so now we're taking this charge. That's even a whole area of thriving in love. You can thrive in this thing. Yes, it requires work, but you still can thrive in this.
Yeah. It's just I agree. The lack of healthy role models, marriage just isn't what it's not glamorous anymore. And so there's just and there's also a lack of commitment. And you mentioned being faithful. There are so many women or girls who just do not believe that men can be faithful. And so if I'm going to get into a marriage and they're not going to be faithful, it's just easier for me to just live with them, and it's easier to get out of it when they decide to, sneak out and do whatever they do. And so that is a huge part. There are not enough role models of faithful marriages, and it is having a significant impact on this generation. And and society says, it should that it's even, I think, even as it relates to the government and taxes and everything is just easier to be an individual. It's just set up to be, to be easier, right? And so and even economically, it costs more to come together, and in that whole, in the planning of the coming together. And and if we continue to be an individualistic society, it's just very difficult to see unity and to comprehend unity when everything before you is take care of me.
Oh, that's good. That's good,
Yeah.
Doc.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're coming close to the end, and just let's just start sharing some of those tips that I dropped my earpiece, so let's handle that so I can hear my guests. Thank you. So let's just talk about some of those tips. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Some of those tips, and what you would share with, even if you had to talk to your younger self when you first got married, what you know now, what would be some of the things that you would share with your younger self that also would be beneficial to others who are navigating marriage?
Um, I would say for me, I would say speak up. And I don't say that because I wasn't allowed to speak. Just personality wise, I can be very laid back, very reserved. Like I said, I think more than I say. And over the years, I didn't realize how much that caused, it caused me to go into a shell that I didn't even know I was in. I hid behind Christian a lot because he's the more open one, because he's the more big personality, and he's a people person. I just always went behind, and I would hide behind that because it was more comfortable for me. But at the same time, I suppressed my own, I would say, my own progress, my own growth by not speaking up, by not fully, even though he fully encouraged me to. Anything I ever said I wanted to do, he was like, well, let's go, let's do it. But I still, because I thought so much and didn't speak. And I don't mean in a way that would be disrespectful. I don't ever want to be, trying to um, overshadow him in any way or anything like that, but just communicating more my desires. Being vulnerable is not easy for me. And again, that's one of those things that for women, usually we're the more vulnerable species,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for me, being vulnerable is not a place that I like to be in at all. And but learning to do that. So I would say to my younger self, learn to be more vulnerable with your husband. Let him into those spaces. Let him into your brain, right? Like let him into those thoughts that you have, and just share openly, because I truly believe that some things that I thought too long about and then just pushed to the side, he could have helped me grow in those areas. He could have made space for me to go and do or explore or be who I was purposed to be. But because I didn't speak up, because I just went along with things and kept a lot to myself, there were things that I didn't experience, and I'm just now learning to be free of, because now I'm learning that it's okay to think those things, and it's okay to say them out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I would say, not to overthink things to the point that I withhold them from my partner.
Mm, yeah. Finding your voice
Yes.
is
Yeah,
essential. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's a lot. That's loaded. And yeah. I guess I would go with choose love every single day. And so the reason why I say that, I believe, love is patient, it's kind, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered. So it's not always a feeling. It's a
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so choosing to be patient, choosing to be kind, choosing to be understanding, choosing, watch this, to even say, I don't know. Like I used to feel like I'm not allowed not to know something. Like I have to have an answer, but this is mislogical. So if I just spit something off and it didn't make sense, it didn't go anywhere anyway. So I would also say the area of like really in your area of like even before marriage, like your singleness, like know who you are, like be comfortable with who you are. Like we talked a little bit tonight about not coming to the table as half and half or 50 and 50, but like there's so much important things that you can learn even in your singleness or being engaged to know who you are, so that when you're in a relationship, like I said, I had a lot of insecurities, you can put that on your spouse
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and cause a whole lot of tension in situations that don't even need to take place. So it's those things that I would even go back to even my younger self and say, look, it's okay to learn you. It's okay to be you. It's okay to love. Even as a male, as a man, it's okay to go ahead and love, be faithful. All those things, like it's okay. As a matter of fact, give all your heart, like give it there. Be fully committed to this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
We chose, it's no condemnation, but we just chose to remove the D word out of our vocabulary.
Right.
And to that, and that's just a choice. And so, even in that area, we've made a decision not to put ourselves in position where that word would even want to come up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just those things. Again, we're not perfect, in those situations, but it's just that area of wanting to grow together, wanting to thrive, wanting to unite, and wanting to release and be there for one another. I love servant leadership. Like I take joy in putting a smile on Lanisha's face. I take joy in understanding and serving and different things like that. And all those things I believe are tips and things that you can do and put into your marriage so that it can be healthy and it can be joyous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You had a list of things. It's okay. It's okay. I think one of the most important things is that it needs to be okay to be counterculture,
Mm-hmm.
because this culture will tell you everything that is counter healthy marriage. And so our mindset has to be counterculture
Mm,
in everything that we do as we are navigating healthy marriage. And
yeah.
so I really appreciate the tips that you have offered. That vulnerability and being secure in the marriage, having a voice. If anybody is viewing and you are struggling in those areas, I would definitely say that a good therapist can help. Would you agree? Would you not agree? Christian and Lanisha, that a good
Yeah.
therapist can help. That
Yes.
those things are absolutely essential for healthy marriage. And
Yes.
so, thank you so much for joining me on tonight. I am really excited about your business and thriving in love, and I hope that it thrives as a business and that you have consistency with those that come to you for help, and that you're able to make your mark. You're in your lane, you found your lane, and that's great. And I am just happy because this is the lane that I'm in as well, the lane that I'm passionate about. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I like to say to all of the viewers, I will be back on Monday for Monday's mental moment, and I will give more tips on Monday for navigating healthy marriage. And so until then, you have a wonderful weekend. And next weekend, I will have my husband of 39 years on the show, and we will talk about. We had many more challenges because we've had many more years, but we'll talk about how we have navigated our challenges and been able to make it to year 39 and call each other friends. And so, again, thank you, Christian and Lanisha. And everyone, have a great night. Remember to, it's not too late to like and share, and hop over to my YouTube channel at Dr. Danita Thompson. And if you enjoyed tonight's segment, there are many more that you can view. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Have a good evening.